excited to have Garret with me right after his keynote at Interconnect. So you are seeing this literally like almost live from the show.
Seconds
We're recording
after.
this, yes, seconds after. So Garret, thank you for being here. And this show is amazing. I mean, we're sitting here on the 4th floor, but there's 5 floors of stuff going on at Interconnect. It is sold out.
Sold out.
Like the room was packed upstairs earlier.
You know, we had a debate on whether or not we should actually sell at the show because, like, we were like, is the fire marshal going to show up and tell us we can't have any more people in the room? So
you did a great. So what does that mean that you sold out? Like, how many people do you estimate are here now?
So there's somewhat over 1,200 people here.
That is awesome.
Which is double last year. So we're excited to see the event growing. Hopefully it will continue to grow. We just need to get bigger spaces.
Yes. Well, the technology also on that stage.
Did you like that?
So cool.
Yeah.
And the AI people that I've seen around, which you were interacting with on stage.
Yes.
It was all so cool. And the graphics and.
Yeah, we put a lot of intentionality behind what we did, and really we're trying to project, the kind of vision we have for technology in general.
Yep.
And so that's why the production.
So, how is the show panning out compared to, when last year was the first show, and it was post-pandemic world, whatever, and so now you've like doubled in size since last year. Is this kind of what you expected? Did you know it would grow this fast? Were you kind of hoping? This is such an event-heavy space too. You had to differentiate.
Yeah.
So what did it look like?
You never really know, but one of the things that we always had a vision for with the show is to be really inclusive.
Yeah.
And so what's unique here is you've got restoration contractors, but not just like restoration contractor owners or general managers. You've got accountants and marketing people and technicians, and we've got content that's curated for each of them. So the whole concept here is like bring your team, like bring one person from every role, and then come back, kick off your year, and figure out how you're going to improve yourself. And I think that's what creates the momentum to get so many people to come, because it really is useful for building your company and getting your team on the same page.
Yes. So you talked about a lot in your keynote, and CoreLogic has a lot going on.
A lot going on.
So I want to walk through some of it, but I'm curious what you're most excited about from all of the things that you talked about on stage this morning.
Yeah. So I think for your audience, what's interesting now is like the CoreLogic insurance group I run is like now underwriting and a whole host of other things. So that's why there's so much different content on the screen. But for your audience, I think Mitigate is like the big game changer, because one, it's here. It's not something that we're going to deliver late this year. It's coming very soon. It's been in alpha test by lots of contractors already. And I said this on stage, and it's like true. Like I get hugs because of Mitigate. The user experience is so much better than what we had at Mika. And look, Mika was like it's first. Like it was the first of its kind, right? It's one of those things that it evolved over time, but we really reimagined it in Mitigate. So I'm super excited. Like the one thing, just to pick one piece out of it, I just am so excited about, like taking your phone or taking your laptop and just scanning the room and have it create the diagram for you. I mean, like I used to like pull tape. I used to try to use lasers.
Yes.
Like there are, so many ways we've had to do this in the past, and this is just like it will literally stitch the room together. You just walk around the house and scan around. It's crazy.
Technology is
moving so fast.
Yes. I remember a few years ago at shows people talking about LiDAR, and that was like, what is that? That's amazing. And now you've made it.
Yes.
Like, now you've incorporated it into the process. And
so upgrade your people's phones, because you definitely need the latest one of the latest Apple phones, because the LiDAR is what makes that happen.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So, okay, I want to talk about the Digital Hub Alliance. You and I were talking offline a little bit before we started recording. Restorers have a ton of technology options out there, and you have a lot of technology options to consider within CoreLogic of who do you get into your Digital Hub Alliance, who are going to be these trusted technology providers that you bring in to collaborate with and integrate with and all of that. So how do you choose, your Digital Hub Alliance keeps growing and growing. How do you choose the best and most innovative technologies out there to bring into the fold that's going to benefit everybody in this ecosystem?
Yeah. So one of the responsibilities we have is not sexy, but is security.
Yeah.
And so that is one threshold item. Like if we can't get people that are following the required security standards from carriers, which are really immense, that sort of does limit who we can let into the platform.
Yeah.
So that is one thing that we've got to think about. And then we also have to think about like who is allowed to share data back and forth. So there's a lot of like complex things around integration. However, one of the things that is not a criteria for us is, are they competing with us? Because we won, like when I was running Nextgear, I know what it feels like to be blocked out just because of competitive reasons, or to have pressure because of that. And we truly believe like not one company can do everything, even though we are being asked by our customers to do things that maybe some of our Digital Hub members do as well. We are really intentional about how we do that. And so I think we listen to our customers. The ones that are being kind of asked for are the ones that we prioritize for integration. We go to conferences like ITC, and we meet with hundreds of different technology providers, get demos, and see what ones we think will work on the platform. But it's hard. It's really hard. There's so many choices out there.
There are so many choices, and new choices every time you walk a trade show floor, there's a new option out there.
That's right.
Okay, I'm curious where you think AI is going. I know that this is a huge topic that everybody's talking about. It was like the #1 thing that came out of the State of the Industry report this year. It's on everybody's minds. Where's it going? Is it going to take over? Is it not going to take over? So that's a big, broad question. But
I need to know. Do you want to know like what I think about it, like in society or in restoration? Because those are two different answers.
Those are two different ones. So I guess let's go restoration, because that's what we're talking about. What do you think on especially the contractor side? What's the role going to be? Yeah,
so I think it's going to be incremental, but it's happening pretty fast. And what's neat about it is like, contractors have already been affected by AI for a while. A lot of our products had AI in the background, and we just didn't talk about it. Yeah. So AI is affecting you now, whether you know or not, which is why one of my main messages is the data that you produce is really important. Because data is what AI uses to make decisions. And so, we've got a new product called Dispatch that carriers are using to assign claims. It's going to use your performance data that you allow carriers to see to decide, hey, I'm eligible for this claim because I do a really good job in this particular area. And so your data and how you respond to things, even when you don't think anybody's looking, may be valuable to you later when you want to get on a program. So I think that the way contractors can really respond is, one, be on technology platforms that are already integrating AI, so that they're not trying to catch up years from now, and really, really look at the data that they are creating and the data they have access to make sure that they can power really intelligent AI, because it's going to be competitive advantages in the going forward.
Talk a little bit about, kind of on this AI conversation, the LLM, the large language model that you're incorporating into the software. That's really cool.
I'm super excited about it. Like, the idea that you can have a conversation with your data is amazing. Like, the idea that you can just say, hey, what is my average gross profit for this particular set of claims? Like, before, you might have to go to a report, filter, do a bunch of BI tools, and like, we've had BI tools and they're great, but like not everyone knows how to use them. But everyone can ask a question.
Yes.
And so any owner that can just ask a question and get a response back from the system. However, if your data in the system isn't good, you're not going to get good answers back. And so it's really important to really focus on your data again.
Okay, that's another point that you brought up in your keynote, the difference between good data and bad data.
Right.
So what's kind of the differentiation between knowing if you have good data that you're pulling out of, or you've got some bad data that's not great?
I think for a restoration contractor, the #1 thing they can do is, in a self-assessment, say, do I go to a system to get my answer, or do I go to a whiteboard or to an Excel spreadsheet or to a person to get my answer? If I rely on a system that everyone has access to, then most likely you've got good data. And then you're going to be able to use the tools that are coming out. If you're still going to your people to say, hey, tell me what's going on with this job, you're not getting updated by your system, or you're using things outside of a system, most likely you have bad data.
Most likely you have bad data. Okay, I'm trying to decide where else I want to go. Let's talk about Validate. That was another big thing you talked about, formerly QA Assist. So talk through Validate and what that is.
Yeah, so Validate QA Assist, which is what people are using today, both on the carrier side and what's really cool on the contractor side too. So when we actually, I was part of the team that bought the original technology for it. It was initially targeted at just carriers. And of course I was like, well, contractors should have access to this technology too. Like, can't just have carriers having access to this technology. And what it does is, think about having your best estimator estimate every loss, right? If you could do that, what would that mean for you? And so the idea that you can put in your best practices and your your individual IP into a system, and then have every single estimate come through and check. and say, are we following those? Get instant feedback to your team, and then be able to use that as a coaching tool is a phenomenal thing. And so, yes, carriers are using it to drive adoption of their program guidelines, et cetera. And then they're using it even to make sure their adjusters are following the guidelines as well, which is actually good for consistency for contractors, because sometimes different adjusters apply things differently, and that's hard and confusing.
Yes.
So we're really trying to bring those technologies together to create more collaboration and make it easier for people to have fairer, faster settlements.
Perfect. Okay, and it was also clear through everything that CoreLogic is doing that you're also very aware of how much stuff is changing in the insurance ecosystem and people getting their policies canceled.
Yeah.
And there's so much going on in California and Florida specifically. Like, those climates are just completely different. So you're talking about the wind and fire resiliency scores.
Yeah.
What do those mean? And specifically for contractors maybe in Florida and California, how can that help them some in how they're serving their clients?
So an article just came out in Fortune that addresses this, that I was quoted in multiple times. My own house in California is almost uninsurable, and it's because of my CoreLogic score. So I've got a bad CoreLogic rating, and the reason for that is because I live in a canyon, and I live at the top. And if you were to look at the imagery above my house and zoom out, all you see is like brush for miles,
Forever.
which means it connects to different canyons, and one fire could start somewhere and it could just get there quickly, which is why we predict that my house has a high chance of wildfire, which makes it hard to insure. There's a lot of changes happening in California. Climate change is affecting this in some way or another, and so frequency and severity is up. So we have to let carriers be able to use that to make better rate making decisions so that they can come back to the states. And so we're really trying to encourage carriers to come back to states that have left by giving them more information so that they can make better, more targeted decisions, which we think will be better for the consumer, because then there'll be more choice and more competition.
Yes.
But it's a big problem.
It is a big
And it's affecting the
problem.
real estate industry in a really big way.
It's a scary thing to think that one day you could have insurance and then the next day you
and just not.
may not.
Exactly.
And it's affecting people outside of those states as well. I mean, the carriers are just struggling, and so you have one loss and you could be
That's right.
gone and out.
And carriers are faced with really bad loss ratios right now.
Yeah.
They're completely out of whack. They're not how they've been. We've had this perfect storm of COVID, inflation, climate change, all happening at the same time. And so we just, as an industry, need to use some data, readjust, and get back to normal.
Yes. Okay, you said that this status quo of settling claims isn't cutting it, right? So that goes into Workspace.
Yes.
Talk about that. I thought that was a really cool new thing that you rolled out and should really help the whole process bring it all together, right?
I think of when we think about settling a claim or working a claim, we think in a very estimate-centric way.
Yes.
And I think that's because of how the industry developed. And so what we did when we were Next Gear, for example, is we were building all around the estimate. Essentially, at that time we were building everything but the estimating system, because there already was a dominant estimating platform out there.
Yes.
And so we just made everything around it. Like, we focused on making the whole process really, really frictionless. And what's great is we can do that with the current status quo. And we'll always be able to do that. But once we were part of CoreLogic, and CoreLogic owned what was formerly Symbility, now we had the estimating piece. And so what we're able to do by actually owning the estimating piece as well is really change the way these things integrate and work the whole system. So estimating is important. It's a big piece of how contractors get things done, but it's really the whole process that's more important, and that's what we're focused on.
Perfect. Okay, before we wrap it up, do you have one prediction for 2024? One thing that you think is really gonna be a game changer this year? It could be from CoreLogic, it could be overall with the economy. There's a lot going on. I don't know. What do you see in the industry this year?
I think you'll see another top 10 embrace our platform.
Okay.
So there's one coming.
It's a good teaser.
It's
I like
a
it.
little teaser.
Yeah.
Things always slide to the right, so you never know. But it should be. You should see that in 2024. You've got just huge changes that are coming every day. Like last year when we were sitting here at the convention, the whole idea of AI and ChatGPT was just happening.
Yes.
Literally just started. And so what's going to happen between now and the next one, there's going to be a lot.
lot.
It just, things happen so fast, which is why I always preach to contractors, get to the latest tech now, because it's just going to keep getting harder and harder to get on. But once you're on the train, it's easy. It's incremental changes.
Okay, so what's your one tip before we wrap it up for contractors who need to get on the train, but they don't even know where to start getting on the train?
Pick a partner that you think is going to help you, and not just that maybe has some cool tech, but actually has the infrastructure and the data and the team to actually make it successful. Really, software implementations are sometimes less about the software and more about how you're being implemented.
Sure.
And you don't want to have a failed implementation because that's just really costly. So yes, I think pick your partner well.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, Garret, thank you so much for being here. Congrats on another great show.
Thank you.
I'm not surprised at all. You and your team are great. So congrats, and I look forward to seeing you around the show circuit and the show.
All right. Great.
Thanks.
Thank you so much, Michelle.
For more Restoration Today and the latest news, visit our website, cnrmagazine.com, and find the latest episodes of the Restoration Today podcast on your favorite podcasting platform.